Hey there, everybody. Good to be back here with you. I take off on the weekends. So I'm checking in with you on this Monday morning. Wow, some really interesting developments on Friday after I had taped. We learned about the appeals court decision stalling Trump's ballroom, right? The $400 million and growing ballroom. So of course his administration is saying no worries, we're just going to take it to SCOTUS. I'm going to look at that in a moment, but also what's come out over the weekend is apparently uh, for entertainment purposes only, Doug Burgum, head of the Interior Department, has been funneling for this ballroom project for the reflecting pool for this proposed big arch that he wants to put on the near the Lincoln Memorial and the Arlington Cemetery. So we're hearing that insiders are reporting to the New Republic and some other pretty reputable outlets that the inside the Interior Department under Burgum's direction, they're starting to shred documents and delete signal chats. What's up with that? They're saying that upwards somewhere between the estimates vary, but somewhere between 100 million and over 300 million dollars have been diverted from the National Park Service. So this is money allocated to public lands and national parks across the nation that we're being told, reportedly, supposedly, under Burgum's direction, have been funneled and basically snatched to fuel and fund Trump's vanity projects. So therefore, there's something's up with that where the documentation backing all of that up. They're sitting over there shredding docs and deleting signal chats. I want to take a look at that, you all, because there's something. Remember as well, I talked about this last week, the big blow up between Janine Pirro and Doug Burgum around the reflecting pool case. I'm getting the impression Doug Burgum is in for a world of hurt, y'all. Spirit, please help us understand why is Doug Burgum's department shredding shredding documents and deleting signal chats over the funding that apparently is being diverted for Trump's vanity projects. What's going on with that? Why is he doing that? Why? So we have the sun. In a way, I get that Spirit is saying this is being brought to light, but also because he promised Trump. I feel like I'm a little dark today. Let me put on a little side light. See if that helps. Yeah, that helps a little bit. He promised Trump, I will make sure that this gets to completion. I will find the money to make sure that your projects see the light of day. Spirit, why is this stuff being... So here comes the star behind it. Long term. And the Knight of Pentacles, that's the money, the moving of the money. The star, what he was planning, what Burgum was planning long term. The Page of Pentacles, now they're trying to find new sources of funding. And the Wheel of Fortune, karma, and destiny, and it coming out. I think what we're getting, you all, is Burgum. I don't know whether or not this was legal. I'm assuming that it was, in terms of him being the head of the Department of Interior. So, reconfiguring the funds however he had discretion to do so. But the fact that so much of this funding around these vanity projects has never been clear. Remember, Trump started out with the ballroom around, not going to cost the taxpayers a dime. I got private funding for all of this. And lo and behold, that's not what's happening. So that Knight of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles, it feels like Burgum is very well aware that the dots are being connected around where this funding is actually coming from. And I think the star is pointing to something long term where he's concerned, or he's growing increasingly concerned, that he's going to wind up having to go before Congress and fess up to just what he did. The Wheel of Fortune, karma coming for him. Spirit, is that what's happening? He's trying to destroy the evidence that he would have to produce documents to show exactly how he diverted that money. Death and the Page of Swords. And the Nine of Wands. He is very afraid. I'm getting that this death is one way or another when Trump exits, however he exits, right? We understand that. So whether it's, he steps aside or Spirit decides to have him step aside and transition, the death is Burgum sees the end of this administration coming, or at least the end of Trump's cover for him coming. So he's trying to figure out Page of Swords, what's my next move? Because the Nine of Wands is, I'm getting that at this point, thank you, Spirit. At this point, Burgum has diverted just about everything that he can without eliminating national parks, right? The National Park Service entirely, right? So he's come to, the well is running dry. Essentially is what Spirit is showing us here. The well is running dry. In that Nine of Wands, how much more are you going to keep telling me to go back and get? And I'm hearing Spirit is saying, when this started, when Burgum was appointed, became a part of the cabinet, everything was focused on the ballroom. Then, in addition to that, here comes the reflecting pool. Now, in addition to that, here comes the arch. We also understand that a lot of the money around that July 4th, fair that was in DC, that money came from the parks, NPS, National Park Service, Burgum's department. So we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. Six of Cups is a review of the past. So I think bottom line here is there's an attempt to get rid of the paper trail because he sees the writing, Burgum sees the writing on the wall that after death comes one way or another, and he no longer has Trump's cover, right? That they're coming, Congress is coming for this. He's going to be held accountable for the extent to which he literally allowed the decimation of national parks, limited hours, lack of personnel, all the things that we've heard that have happened in parks across the nation, that he did that deliberately, not just due to fiscal conservatism or saving money, but he took that money out of that pot just to fund these vanity projects. And he is afraid. That Wheel of Fortune, he's afraid of what's coming for him and the consequences. Spirit, will Doug Burgum face prosecution? Eight of Cups, Page of Cups, and the Three of Wands. I don't know that he will face legal, like he'll go to jail for it. I don't see that. But I do see he's going to check out and use his billions to basically try and build a different life for himself. And he's already thinking of his exit strategy. That's what a lot of this is about. Get rid of the paperwork, start covering the trail, because once Trump is gone, he's looking at Page of Cups and Eight of Cups. I'm out of here. I'm going to disengage. I'm going to go somewhere quiet where is he from? North Dakota or something. I'm going to go somewhere quiet and just chill out or try. And the Four of Pentacles, exactly. I'm just going to go somewhere and sit tight with what I have. So he's planning his exit strategy. And he's doing so by trying to get rid of these documents and the Seven of Wands, because he knows the strain that he's under to continue to produce, that he simply can't. The well is literal. He has taken hundreds of millions of dollars. Trump keeps adding on these other things. There's no place for him to go. So that's interesting. That he's got them sitting over there scrambling, getting rid of the signal chats and trying to destroy the paper trail for how he diverted this money from, that was meant to be used for public lands to fund these projects that were never supposed to be, public dollars were ever supposed to be used on. Now, that said, I also want to look at what SCOTUS is going to do based on the ruling Friday in the appeals court to halt the ballroom. But it does not halt the underground situation because, of course, this administration, Trump and company, are hooping and hollering about national security, that they have to have this for it's a national security concern. So the underground elements of it, we understand the courts are saying, okay, we're not going to put a stop to that, but the physical this physical space of the ballroom itself, it's what's under question without congressional approval for funding. So SCOTUS, they've said they're going to appeal it to SCOTUS. Spirit, will SCOTUS dismiss the case? There's some ideas out there that rather than rule against Trump, rather than the Roberts Court come out and say, go against their master, that they may dismiss the case, which essentially just, doesn't give a resolution. It basically says the plaintiffs in the case who brought the suit to stop the ballroom, they would find a loophole to say you don't have standing to bring this case, and dismiss it kind of leaves everything back to square one with Trump's discretion about building it. Spirit, is SCOTUS going to dismiss the case? Ten of Swords, they like, we don't want it. We don't want it. We've been, we've done so much for you already. Please leave us alone. Spirit, will SCOTUS rule on this case or dismiss it? The ballroom, Trump's ballroom. Page of Swords, it's coming. And I love in this deck, I'm reading with it says witch, but it is a woman in total control of herself. Love it. New deck and really loving it. So Page of Swords, notice that raven on top of the books. That's the news coming down. Oh, I just looked down. I don't know if this flipped, but death came back to stop. News coming down around stopping the case. Spirit, will the Roberts Court take the easy way out and dismiss the case? So then that leaves Trump basically open to pursue it how he wants. The world. That's how it looks right now. They're going to take the easy way out, and rather than tick Trump off, which, Roberts never wants to do, it looks like they will simply, or not simply, but they would dismiss the case, and then that kind of throws things back into Trump's lap to figure out how to continue it. And therefore, thank you, Spirit, light bulb just went off. That's another reason why Burgum is so in a tizzy, because once that happens, now Trump's going to be looking back at Burgum and others, I'm sure, to say, okay, now we got that squared away. Let's keep going. I need more money. And that's part of what's happening there. All right. Last thing I wanted to look at, y'all, this is just, I know so many of you must be disturbed about this as well. The USS, USS Abraham Lincoln, 5,000 military personnel, both Navy and Marines, we understand, have been stranded on the aircraft carrier now for over 9 months. We've heard the stories that have come out that were broken through these families, mind you, because, media ain't doing it, or only if they have to, because the families came forward. So, the molded showers, the rationed food, the lack of toiletries, deodorant, toothpaste, just absolute, and no docking whatsoever, just stranded there in the sea now, no end in sight. I want to take a look at the ramifications of that, because we've had Trump now over the weekend, I think it was just yesterday, came out and said in reference to both Gaza and Iran, I wrote it down. Oh, don't worry. It'll all work out. It's like a chess game. Now, he said that specifically when addressing the situation with Iran. But we also know that regarding Gaza, Bibi Netanyahu came out and was basically like, you ain't telling me what to do, right? We're going to keep going as long as we choose. And so rejected the plan that, Trump and his so-called border peace put forward to have Hamas stand down and then the Israeli troops, pull back. And Netanyahu was like, why would I do that? I'm getting ready. I told you all along what my goal was in Gaza. I'm not listening to you. And a quote that I wrote down from Bibi Netanyahu around this proposal from Trump's, Netanyahu said, Israel, we're going to stand our ground even against our best friends when necessary. We're going to stand our ground even against our best friends when necessary. So Bibi basically flipped Frump the bird. So Frump turns around and says, no, we're not going to worry about these things. One way or another, they're all going to work out. You've got military families and military personnel on food rations, this is a 24/7 operational aircraft carrier. They're saying the noise alone from these flights and all of the engine work, like the noise alone, like the impact that this is going to have long term on these military personnel. Here's what I'm wondering. You're Trump saying it'll work out. It's like a chess game. He's checked out. Spirit. Is Congress going to, I feel like this is going to come on down on Hegseth first, or Kegsbreath, as many of you call him. Is Congress going to do something to intervene on behalf of these families? We have the moon. This is definitely cause for concern, and the emotional impact, and the, I just heard the term, I don't like it, but I just heard the term indentured servants, essentially. That this is coming across like treating our soldiers like indentured servants. Spirit, will Congress intervene? We know they've gone on recess until September, until next month. Will Congress intervene? The Hierophant, government. I think we're going to see something come forward congressionally to intervene, and the Ten of Pentacles. This cannot go on. Now, they did not approve, before Congress left on their little recess, they did not approve Kegsbreath's request for, what was it, $1.5 trillion in funding, in defense spending, right? They did not approve that. So the Ten of Pentacles, I think it's like enough. And the Wheel of Fortune. Yes. And also, that's the second time we've seen, sometimes when you get major arcana like this, I see it also as a timing element. Wheel of Fortune is a 10. I'm seeing they come back, Congress reconvenes in September, sometime between September and October is where we're going to see, and there's the star. Yes. Sometime between September and October is where we're going to start to see Congress really buck back on this, because again, they are moving into, landslide against them or not, some are calling it a bloodbath in November, but regardless, they are looking at elections, midterms, right? And a lot of these military families are in red states, not all of them clearly, but a lot of their base have ties to the military. So I think we're going to see something come out of Congress to try and get Page of Cups, to try and speak to this issue. And the Lovers, the decision to stop the funding at all, any funding, like no funding going through, or no additional funding going through. And the Six of Cups. Yes, no additional funding going through. They can't, this is yet another reason why they won't be able to justify it. How are you even using this money when the very personnel that are securing this effort are not being treated right, are not safe, essentially. You've decimated not just morale at this point. This is their actual existence. And strength. Yeah. I think Congress is going to grow whatever piece of a backbone they could grow. This situation around the military and the treatment of the personnel is not going away. You're going to continue to hear families talk about it, and it's going to have to get addressed. And there will be Congress is going to really fight this administration around continued funding for this effort, even while Trump sits back and says, "Oh well, it'll all work itself out." Well, Congress is going to say it ain't going to work itself out with an additional $1.5 trillion when we've got personnel out at sea who are not being fed, who are not being given relief, no docking whatsoever, not even basic functions like showers and toiletries. And what are you doing with this money? All right, so I do see some light at the end of that tunnel. All right, y'all. That's basically what I got. Thank you. I meant to say this earlier on. Thank you to so many of you who participated in my workshop on Saturday, the Peak of the Lionsgate Portal, and we talked about quantum leaping into your higher self. I had a little technical glitch with music that I wanted to play, but I sent with the recording. I sent those of you who participated the recordings that were meant to go into it. But also, if you are interested in it, we're still in that energy until the 12th, and then we've got the new moon and solar eclipse in Leo. So if you're interested in the recording from the class you couldn't attend, you can go to my website, trulytouchedbytarot.com, go to the shop tab, and you can order it, and I will send you the recording and the videos, the music that were meant to be a part of it as well. All right, it was a good class, and I thank so many of you who showed up. You were gracious, even as I had a little technical glitch. You were gracious and supportive, and just incredible energy. I was really, really happy to spend that time with you. All right. That's it, y'all. I will see you in a couple of days. Let's see what happens in Wisconsin tomorrow with Hong. What's her name? Francesca Hong running for governor. Now, AOC and some other Bernie Sanders, they have not endorsed, and their reasoning for that, even though Hong is one of these sort of upstart progressive candidates that we're seeing, they haven't endorsed her because they're saying essentially they're putting their muscle and energy behind congressional candidates. So that's why, like Syed in Michigan and others. So congressional races are where we'll see a lot from them. And they're sort of staying out of this because it's a governor's race. But it's going to be very interesting. Primaries in Wisconsin tomorrow will be very interesting to see how Francesca Hong does in that primary. All right, you all take really good care out there. Chins up, always. We clock is ticking, right? I'm getting for real. We are closer to a resolution and a turning point of all of this madness than we were certainly a year ago, right? We're getting closer there. So chin up, shoulders back. Remember to breathe in your heart. Leo, the lion-hearted, talked a lot about that in the workshop, right? Courageous. This is a time for courage. And courage comes, it doesn't have to be aggression. Courage can come from love, from calmness, and for belief in goodness. All right? Sky above us and the earth beneath us, always holding us down. Be good out there. Stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.